All right, you guys. So the big news that everybody's been wanting me to talk about, I will talk about it right now. And let's dive right into the meat. So here we go. This is what kicked off all the drama, the big topic of the last 24 hours. It began yesterday with this tweet from Emil Satovsky, who I believe is currently the Fide, the CEO of Fide, the governing body of chess. So this was the tweet, and the tweet says, "No more farming. If you're a 2650 plus player, please, or if you're a 2650 plus player, do prove your skill versus opponents of comparable strength." Why 2650 plus? It is a top 100 level, and these players rarely face low-rated opponents. While, for example, GMs with 2500 and 2650 mostly play in large opens, and they should not suffer from the new regulations. Additionally, Fide prepared a detailed questionnaire related to ratings after what period of players should be considered inactive, how to approach rating decays, etc. This will be sent to the top 100 and women's top 50 to have their feedback before taking the decisions on a whole range of matters. All right. So first things first. So the first thing that I take a little bit of offense to as a broad topic here, I guess I'll scroll. I cropped it a little bit incorrectly, so let me crop it a little bit more, because you can't actually, I just realized you can't actually see who the tweet is by, so I cropped it a little bit poorly. There we go. The first thing is no more farming. Now the way that Emil has worded this, to be clear, it's not obvious that he's saying it about me or who exactly he's talking about, which is rather smart. But I do take a little bit of offense to it, because this rule that Fide has come up with, which I'll talk about the reasons I agree with the rule, by the way, later on. But the fact is, the only reason it's becoming an issue now is very specifically because of me. This is not about other players, and the reason this bothers me is because, as I've said time and time again, we know by the tone who the tweet is by. That's true. The fact of the matter is, I am not farming. That's the reality. I'm trying to get my 40 games in the most economical way. I'm going to repeat myself later on, so I apologize if I say things out of order and then I say them again later. But that's the first thing. It is what it is. Now, 2650 plus, this I also don't agree with. I think this should be much higher. I'm going to get into that when we talk about the article and we do a much bigger, broader discussion, which I'll get to very shortly. But I think the rating for this should literally be 2750. And the reason that I think it should be 2750 and not 2650 is because the only time that this is really going to be an issue in top level chess is when it involves players who are trying to qualify to something bigger, like the candidates very specifically. So as it relates to this, I generally agree with the rule. I think they should not, right? Players should not endlessly gain something like 0.8. On the other hand, this arbitrary rating of 2650, I don't agree with. I think it should be much higher. I'll probably talk about why. I assume once I cover the article, I'll talk about why. But I do believe that this rating is it's not the rating that it should be. It should be substantially higher, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. But basically, the point is, if you're above 2650 and play someone who's like 1800 or 1700, you won't get 0.8 any longer. Now, third point, additionally, Fide prepared detailed questionnaire. Do they add your ratings accordingly? Yes. So the rating list is out. My rating is 2816. We're going to talk about that, because that's a very interesting topic too, because there's some ratings where things have gone kind of sideways. But let's keep it let's keep everything in order. This part I think is really, really bad, actually. The fact that Fide is preparing a detailed questionnaire for players related to ratings is, in my mind, absolutely unconscionable. The fact of the matter is that the chess ratings that Fide has right now are literally based off a mathematical system that was created by Arpad Ilo, a mathematician from Hungary, I think nearly 100 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken. But the fact is, you have a rating system for a reason, and having chess players potentially influencing it and breaking this math system that has worked for so long, in my opinion, is very, very dangerous. And I think if Fide introduces these things like decay or other things, it's going to literally bust the system. The rating system is going to break. Basically, it's not going to work any longer. So let's move on. Next bit, we have our article, and I think this is actually, I cropped this more or less correctly, but let me adjust this. Actually, it's not cropped correctly. Here we go. Okay. So let's move on to the next bit. So we saw the original tweet from Emil, and now we'll move to this article from Fide. Didn't you say you want a rating decay? At one point, I thought that it made sense. Now I'm actually opposed to it. It's not for the reason you think. It's not because it benefits me in any way. It's because I think the fact is it's all arbitrary, and you're going to end up punishing people who are like what constitutes an active player. Let's forget about the fact that I don't play a lot of chess. Let's think about what constitutes an active player. Does 30 games a year constitute an active player? Do you have to play 50? Do you have to play 100 classical games? Like, what exactly constitutes being active? And that's the problem with this. You end up in a situation where it's very, very arbitrary. So I could, I would stand here and say that I think playing something like 20 games a year is way too little. I don't think 20 games a year is being active, but at the same time, I think trying to argue someone has to play 50 games of classical chess is also probably too much. But then you could say the really active players can push for something like 100 games or something like that. That's the bit about decay, because it's a very good point to bring that up, because I have in the past said that. But let's get to the article. Okay, so here's the article from chess.com. Fide scraps the 400-point rating rule for 2650 plus players, triggered by Nakamura. The International Chess Federation, Fide, has announced a change to its rating regulations that will already take effect on October 1st, removing the so-called 400-point rule for players rated above 2650. The change was triggered by GMHikaru's Nakamura's race to qualify for the candidates, but will affect around 70 of the world's top grandmasters. Now, you know what really amuses me about this first statement? What really amuses me is that this is no secret. Literally everybody knows that this has been my intention for at least the last 4 months. I'll give you a good example. When I was in Paris playing the freestyle event, I guess that would have been April. That would have been April, I believe it was. When I played the freestyle event, for one of the dinners that I was going to, I ended up in the van with Peter Lecco and Vincent Keimer, Vincent's dad, and I think maybe 1 or 2 other people. It was really fun talking to them. We're just going to dinner, and like I told them, I'm like, all these people, they do these things, to get into candidates. Like, why should I suddenly hold myself to a different standard? So I literally told them I was going to go play some open terms in the US and get my 40 games. That's what I told them. And so they knew that. Now, this is not about Peter or Vince or any of that, but like there have been people who've known that this is my intention for a long time. When I was in Norway chess, I spoke to Fabiano. I was at a table with Fabiano. I don't think Magnus was there, but there were a few players there. And I said the same thing again to Fabiano. I said, you know what? I'm probably going to go to like New Mexico. I'm going to go play some tournaments and, keep it simple. You won't see me anywhere else the rest of the year. And, so this is not some big secret or anything else. Like I've made it very clear what my intentions are pretty much from day one. And so it amuses me how suddenly they basically come up with this right now when this has been no secret. But let's keep going with the article. Fide's rating system continues to be a heavily debated topic in the chess world. Today, the governing chess body has announced a significant change that will go into effect from October 1st, intended to address what is known as farming by top players. The final decision was made by the Fide Council after a proposal by the qualification committee, Fide said. The amendment ensures that rating adjustments at the highest levels accurately reflect a player's performance against a pool of statistically equal opponents, safeguarding professional standards set by Fide, they said in a statement. Okay. Since the last change in 2024, a player was never treated as more than 400 rated points higher rated than their opponent. That meant that a top player could earn the minimum 0.8 rating points for every win against significantly weaker players. Under the new rule, the full rating gap will always be applied for players rated above 2650. Instead of a rating gain of 0.8 per win, they expect the score can now be as high as 99%, which equals a rating gain of 0.1 or 100%, and 0 points gained if the rating difference is more than 735 points. In other words, for the very best players, games against much lower rated opposition will now be almost completely ratings free on the upside, but highly punishing in case of a draw or a loss. The timing of the change has raised eyebrows, as it comes just weeks after Nakamura gained 9 rating points from his 11 wins against players rated as low as 1800 in the Iowa Open and the Louisiana State Championship this month. Now, this is the timing of this, of course, is directly connected. Now, for people who are curious about some of the backstory on this, I'm going to tell you guys that I was already aware that there's probably going to be some change made. I'm just going to say this. I was already aware. So if I really were trying to farm for rating, I would have gone and played the last 2 weekends to get those 11 games in and not have to deal with any possible changes to the rating system whatsoever. I do want to say that because there are actually people out there who are stupid enough to think that like I'm trying to farm the system, I'm trying to gain rating points, I'm trying to pass Magnus, which is probably the most absurd thing I've ever heard. But I've been aware of this. And I would also say that I won't say who, but I will say within Fide, I actually have received communications, and like there have been suggestions that I should play certain tournaments, or you know, I should play a match against a quote unquote. Let me find it actually. Sorry. Let me find it. 1 second, you guys. Okay, this is gonna be good. 1 second. Okay, first things first. Okay, what is this? So the first things first, this was a tournament that was suggested that maybe I should play in. Let me change the scene. Sorry, because I just opened chess registration. I'm not going to play in this tournament. Let me change this one and let me adjust it. Give me 1 second. First things first. Okay, this was actually a tournament that was suggested. This is the you can actually see it on the right side, right? You can see it. This was a tournament. So Fide actually suggested that I play this tournament. This is the first thing. Okay. Legitimately, this was the name. This was a tournament. Fide said, why don't you play this tournament? Because there's like a GM register. This is a tournament in October, by the way. But yeah, so this is actually really funny. This was suggested. I also would tell you guys the second part that's really funny about this. The second part that was really, really funny about this is I'll read this quote unquote. Okay. Also, it would be reasonable to have a short match with one of the decent players. So, those of you guys who were around a couple of years ago, you'll probably remember. You'll probably remember that. Alireza Firouzja played a couple of matches, and Fide did not rate those matches. And now I'm being told that I should go and play some matches. I mean, I'm literally being told that I should go play matches. The exact thing that Fide basically told Alireza he couldn't do, and they invalidated those matches. So just to give you guys an idea of the comedy of the situation and how absurd this is, that's like a communication I received. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so all right, they show my games. They say the world number 2 has been playing in what he described as Mickey Mouse tournaments. Now I adjusted this incorrectly, so no, this is correct. Sorry, the board's up top. In order to secure the required 40 classical games in order to qualify for the rating spot in the 2026 Fide Candidates tournaments. Critics noted that this had allowed the 37-year-old to close the gap to GM Magnus Carlsen on the world rating list and reach a new high without facing top-level competition. Carlsen himself weighed in doing a take show earlier this month, joking that his rival's strategy is absolutely shameless, but probably the right thing to do. He added, it looks like the system could do with some fixing. So, the thing, as I said before, that I find really, really bad about this is that, of course, it's not about farming. The fact of the matter is, I'm going to give you guys some insight into my thinking. I'm not super young. I don't have time to go and play long chess tournaments, which are 9 rounds or more any longer. Because frankly, I've said it before, I make much more money from streaming and content creation than I do as a professional chess player. That is the reality. Shame on chess for not having more money, and shame on Fide for not doing more for the game. But it is what it is. So, if I played 18 games this year, 10 games in Norway and 8 games in the American Cup, I played 18 games. I need to play 22 games. There is no way in any world where I'm going to take 22 days to play 1 game a day over that course to get the games. So what am I going to do? I'm going to start playing in tournaments in the United States, some of which have 3 rounds a day that are Fide rated or 2 rounds a day. It's simply a matter of volume and just running through the games as quickly as I can. Basically trying to do it in like 4 weekends versus having to take like a full month. Literally take like 8 to 10 days to get all the games done versus having to spend a month or more even with travel trying to get all the games. So that's the simple reality of the situation, is that I'm going to try to stack the games as quickly as I can. Now Magnus here says this, the system could do something. Of course, what I did is completely correct, and anybody would do that. In fact, when we talk about the rating system, the reality is people try. One thing that I really don't like about chess is there's this image thing, or trying to pretend that people are geniuses or really smart. In some ways they are, or that no one's going to find the optimal game strategy to get into a tournament they want to get into. Now, as it relates to game strategy, if you go back to 2019, and it's very annoying this has been forgotten in the muck of things, because people talk about Ding or Alireza, but if you go back to the 2019 cycle, Anish Giri was trying to qualify for the rating spot, and Anish got a high enough rating on average that he basically dropped out. I believe he dropped out of the Fide Grand Prix and the Fide Grand Swiss tournaments to ensure that he would protect his rating and qualify for the Canada. So even if it's slightly different, it's the same situation where there's a problem with the rating spot, and Anish just dropped out of tournaments to make sure he got it. Great game strategy. Fully approve it. Anish did what he should do. You have Ding, you have Ali Reza, and now you have my situation right now. And when you look at all these things, it's just simply players playing the system the way they should. It's optimal game strategy to make to the candidates, and this is why I've said it before and I'll say it again. Fide should completely get rid of the rating spot. The only reason that the rating spot perhaps should exist is honestly, I mean, it's the reason they came up with the rules they did and why we're in this mess is because they wanted Magnus to play. I don't think there should be a rating spot at all. I think it should be 2 players from the Grand Swiss, 2 players from the Fide World Cup, and then something like 4 players from some circuit of events or something along those lines. That's what I believe. I do not think there should be a rating spot. Period. I don't. But let's keep going. Fide only cares when Hikaru does it. I assume there will be more to say about this. Fide CEO GM Emil Satovsky was direct about the intentions of the change. No more farming, he wrote in a tweet, adding, if you're a 2650 plus player, please prove your skill. Okay, we already covered this bit. The Fide CEO later followed up another tweet confirming Nakamura triggered the rule change. Just to be clear, the rule is not about Hikaru. He did trigger, but when we started to dig, it turned out there were at least 5 players more of 2650 level who in 2024-2025 regularly played events with a string of very low rate opponents abusing the 400-point rule. Okay, now I believe that three of the other 4 players besides myself related to blitz ratings, not classical chess, but we're gonna get to that. But let's keep going. Not everyone is convinced by Fide's sudden regulation change. GM David Howell labeled the reform short-sighted and flawed in response to Satovsky's tweets. Very short-sighted. Farming was never a big issue, and the artificial manipulation of the rating system, choosing a random cutoff point for convenience, creates far worse negative consequences. In several follow-up tweets, Howell argued that Fide has misdiagnosed the problem and called the fire department to blow out a small candle. Punishing the whole ecosystem for one player's choices hardly seems fair. Ironically, this will least impact the top players. This will mainly negatively affect those who are dependent on open tournaments to make a living, guaranteeing they lose points or stay away altogether. Now, this is why the first thing I said when I showed the tweet is I think picking the 2650 rating is a huge mistake. And now I'm going to tell you why I said that earlier. The reason I said that earlier and why I think that it should have been 2750 plus is because there are almost no situations where someone can quote unquote farm where it makes any sense. The only reason to farm are for the following reasons. You want to get your rating up, so say you make your local chess Olympiad team, maybe you want to make your national championship, or perhaps if you look at past cycles, because my cycle is not quite the same. If you look at past cycles, maybe you need some rating to get into the candidates. Now, it's also important to note that as it relates to the candidates, I don't need the rating. I have the rating. I've played top level tournaments, contrary to what other people seem to be saying. I played the American Cup. I beat Fabiano. I beat Lenier Dominguez. I drew Mishra in the classical games, but I won that event. I beat Gukesh in Norway chess. I drew Magnus. I beat Fabiano. I mean, what do you guys want? I'm playing the top level tournaments, so I didn't need any rating. And this notion that somehow like I'm not, my rating, I'm keeping my rating inflated or I don't deserve my rating. I'm playing the top players in the world. What do you want me to do? You want me to like play the intergalactic champion from Mars or something? Like, come on, let's be real. But the problem with this is simple. The only world where it makes sense for farming is if you want to make your Olympiad team, you want to make your national championship, or, perhaps you get your rating up to like 2730. Say you're like 2690, you get your rating to 2730. Maybe you get an invite to the Grand Chess Tour. Now, the reason that's not applicable either, by the way, is because if you farm your rating from like 2690 to like 2730 or 2740, no organizer is going to invite you to their tournament because they're going to know what you did. Word spreads very quickly when players play his tournament. So if you farm from like 2690 to 2740, you're not going to get invited because nobody's going to have any respect for you because of the way you got your points. So that's why I think making it 2650 is very, very bad. I think that they should have been like literally 2750. It should have been 2750. It should have been a level or like top 10, maybe top 15, period, full stop. Because I don't think there's any world where it makes sense to farm. All you're going to do is you're going to get a lot of negative attention, and you're going to get a lot of negative attention. Nobody's going to respect you. And for what exactly? For what? For nothing. So I think that this is a big mistake as it relates to rating. The rating should have been much higher. It should have been like 26. I would have said 2725. Whatever. I mean, I have the 2700 list here on my other monitor. I would say, yeah, so 2724 is number 22. I would say something like, yeah, like 20, like I would say something like 2725 or 2730, whatever it is, like, you know, top 20, 25 players in the world, and that's it. Because when you make it 2650, the problem with doing this is quite simple. You're going to be in a situation where anyone who's over 2650 and up to 2700, they're not going to want to play open tournaments. They're not going to want to play tournaments where people are trying to get norms, improve their rating. And the more they stay away, the more that hurts chess overall. So as David Howell says here, I actually agree with him completely. And he's 100% spot on. This is going to have an adverse effect where it's not going to affect me. It's not going to affect the top players. And it's going to affect a lot of other players in a very bad way. It's going to affect norm possibilities. It's going to affect the strength of open tournaments, the chance you have to play against strong players. Both of these are probably going to decline because of it. So in my view, I agree with David. I mean, I think the rules should be changed. To be clear, I do not think that I should get 0.8 for beating these players. At the same time, I think they should really confine it to the very, very top. I do believe it should be confined to like 27, 20, like top, let's just say top 20 in the world. Straight up, whatever number 20 is, I don't know what that is right off. I can go back and check. Number 20 is 2729. So like 2729, for example. 2729, and below that, it doesn't apply. But above 2729, it does. When you make it 2650, this is going to have a negative impact, for sure. I don't know how negative it's going to be, but it's going to have a negative impact. And also, like as David says, you know, fire department blows volcano. This is not some huge issue. Like I'm going to get the rating spot no matter what. Like I was always going to get the rating spot. I'm simply taking the manner in which it's the easiest to play the highest volume number of games in least amount of days, and of course to take the least risk as well. Anybody with a brain would do that. Let's be real. So let's keep going. Okay, so let's keep going. While the rating change is unlikely to affect Nakamura's real priority, which is to qualify for the candidates by securing the required 40 games, the potential risk will now be significantly higher. But it doesn't matter. That's the point. It's gonna have no impact on me. Like, by the way, just to be clear, you guys, I was considering playing some tournaments like GMs. I'm not going to do that now. Newsflash. I'll tell you one term that I was considering playing. I'll just say it on stream because there's no reason not to. I was considering playing the Los Angeles Open, which definitely would have a few GMs and quite a few IMs potentially as well. And now I'm not going to play it. Like I was considering playing stronger tournaments, and now I'm going to go and not play stronger tournaments for anybody who wants to know. Specifically because the point was never about the rating. I was going to play and probably give back a bunch of the rating points, but now I feel like, you know what? Why shouldn't I go play the same tournaments? I was going to play stronger tournaments, and now I'm not going to. Okay. So, loss or draw will be more costly as there will be no point in a cover game. Satovsky added that they are also looking into ideas to adjust rules related to inactivity. One measure discussed is rating decay. Yes, this will be on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Where your rating decreases gradually if you remain inactive. The suggestion is welcomed by GM Hans Niemann. Of course. Hans has to inject himself into literally every possible conversation that he can. Of course, Hans has to be loud as always. Chess desperately needs some form of rating decay for a multitude of reasons. Top players can maintain their ranking with very few games per year, preventing up and coming players from challenging them, making it easier for them to blacklist players. Here we go with this nonsense again. Dude, grow up, get over it. You're not blacklisted. You're not good enough. Get over it. Qualify for the Grand Chess Tour. Jeez. Okay. The change comes just 18 months after Fide made major changes in the rating regulation. March 2024, Fide adjusted ratings for 350,000 players rated below 2,000, restored the 400-point rule for all games in an effort to combat rating deflation, and improve the accuracy of the rating system. Now, this also is dumbfounding to me. Like they adjusted the ratings for 350,000 players below 2,000. Like that's so many players. You're changing so many things. Like it's just sad. It's actually kind of sad to see. Like they're tinkering with the rating system in a way that shouldn't be happening. So, all right, let's keep going. What is next? Next up, we have the David Howell tweet. Hans is right, though. I don't think Hans is right, and I'll tell you why I don't think Hans is right. Even though I have spoken about the need for actually, let me go back to this scene for 1 second. Yeah, you're talking about rating decay. Here's the problem with rating decay, which I alluded to at the beginning of this video, and I'll talk about it again now. The problem with rating decay is you have to pick an arbitrary number of what matters. And I'm also going to tell you guys, you could say it's 10 games a year. You can say it's 50 games a year. You can say it's 100 games. I don't know what the number is, but the thing is, in this modern world, there are other tournaments that matter more. If you try to put a rating with decay on, the fact is, let's say you make it 70 games a year of classical chess that you have to play. If you make it 70 games a year of classical chess that you have to play, what are people going to do as it relates to freestyle, assuming it keeps going? What are people going to do as it relates to Title Tuesday and EWC? Players are going to have to start picking and choosing what they play completely. And I don't think most players are going to play classical chess. And I think it's going to be, classical chess is going to diminish almost for sure if that happens. I do believe that, actually, because people are going to have to pick and choose. And the fact is, are you going to go play some random, there aren't that many great classical tournaments as is, like for like players who are 2700 ish rating. There's Grand Swiss, there's maybe like a one or two in the Middle East that are good. They're very, very few. Han said rating decay will cause you as Magnus play more classical. I hate to break it to you guys, but that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that Magnus is going to retire, and I'm probably going to retire. All of that's going to do is basically ensure that both of us stop playing chess sooner, playing classical chess at least. Like that's all that's going to happen. And that's only going to have more adverse effects. When you have, like, I'll give you an example. Look at Alireza Firouzja. If Firouzja can ride the gravy train for EWC, Title Tuesday, all the online events, because he's simply a beast, why is he going to focus on playing classical chess? Classical chess is going to be completely delegitimized if people don't play classical and people focus on all the rapid and the blitz and all the online stuff. And at the end of the day, there's more money there too. Like, I hate to break it to you, but when you look at EWC, when you look at Title Tuesday, when you look at Speed Chess Championship, there's much more money. If I'm Ali Reza, for example, and I'm told I have to play 70 games of classical chess and play these random opens, I'm going to go online and play all these online tournaments where I can do so much better financially. Why would I care? So classical chess can be completely delegitimized if that happens. So I strongly am opposed to it at the moment, just because what's going to happen is because of all the other events that exist now, it's not going to work the way that people think it is. It's not going to lead to people playing more. It's going to lead to a situation where people are going to focus on basically, not all, but some players are going to focus much more on the events that happen on chess.com very specifically. And they should. They should 100%. Just to use Ali Reza because he's the beast of online chess. Like, Ali Reza is an example where if he can do much better playing online, why is he going to care about 70 games of classical chess? Why is he going to care about the world championship? I mean, who cares? So that's why I'm strongly opposed, because I think what that's going to do is going to lead to a situation where Magnus basically just stops playing sooner perhaps than you would expect. And I think it's also going to lead to a situation where I'm also, like, I've made no bones about it. All these people, like, I've seen some people saying, oh, I'm going to farm my way to #1, or I care about being #1 in the world. The only reason I'm doing it is because I want to play the candidates. That's the only thing I care about. It's the only event that makes me even remotely interested in classical chess. If there were no candidates, like, let's say I wasn't qualifying for the candidates, I'd probably be like more or less retiring from classical chess within the next year. I mean, maybe I still will because candidates is next year, but I think you guys get the point of what I'm saying. Is that I would basically be on the path to retiring if not for the candidates and possibly the world championship. So I find it funny when people say, because the only reason I'm playing is for the candidates. It's literally the only reason. I don't care about #1 in the world. Anybody who says that, like, I hate to break to you, but to think that I would do that when everyone's going to basically just be laughing at me and making fun of me, come on, be serious. I would never do that. All right, let's get going because we don't have a whole lot of time left. Let's go. David Howell's tweet, very short-sighted. Farming was never a big issue, and this artificial manipulation of the rating system, choosing a random cutoff point for convenience, creates far worse negative consequences similar to previous rating changes. Okay. I already spoke about this a little bit as it relates to as it relates to the article. I agree with David. All it's going to do is going to end up harming players. What's going to happen is you're going to have a player like I'll give you an example of a player. Someone who's not good enough to get invites, but I have a lot of respect for, is very strong, but isn't quite there, is someone like Jordan Van Forest. Now, Jordan Van Forest, very good player. I think he has great potential. Someone, around 2,700, but he's not good enough to get invites to tournaments. So he has to go play his open tournaments. So now when he goes and plays his open tournaments and he starts playing players who, let's just say, for example, this is nothing personal, but let's say there's a kid from India, because Indians tend to be very underrated. He plays a kid from India who's like, let's just say 2,000, but their actual rating is like 2,300. This is where the rating system is going to get bent in the wrong way. And so if he loses to like a 22 or 2,300, he's now going to lose more points. And because he has to play a lot of opens, this is probably going to cost him quite a few points yearly. And I'm just using him as an example because he's someone I can think of who I know plays opens who's very good. And it can end up costing him a ton of points. So he's not the only example. There are many other players, but this is, I think you guys see what I'm saying. So you have a situation where it's going to affect them. And then what happens is if you're over 2650 and you have the opportunity to be like, okay, I'm not going to play opens. Why would I play an open tournament? I don't want to deal with this stuff anymore. So it's only going to end up affecting these players. It's going to end up affecting other people, not actually have any effect on me or the top players, the elite players at all. It's going to affect these people who are simply trying to make a living. These people who are trying to break into the 2700 or get beyond that. Those are the people who get punished for it. So that's why I think it's really short-sighted in terms of the rating point. I actually, as I said earlier, I agree with the rule. I think the rule is fine, but it should be applied to something like top 20 in the world, something like 2730 or whatever, top 2729, and that's that. Plain and simple, nothing else. It should not be applied at 2650. It should be literally applied to like the top 20 in the world. Jordan can't lose to 2100 FMs. I believe Jordan did lose to someone who was like 2200 in the Qatar Masters 2 years ago when I played, but maybe I'm wrong. I think Jordan did lose because he played it. There are a lot of kids who are underrated. There are a lot of kids who are very, very underrated. So, you know, I agree with what David said. He's completely correct here with his statement. It's going to end up affecting everybody else, and that's that. So now the one last bit we're going to cover, we still have about 10 minutes, is this little bit. We, of course, have this tweet from Levy. And this says, today, Fide made a rule change. Effective October 1st, players past a certain elo cannot earn rating by defeating players much weaker than them. This rule is sort of anti-Hikaru, but not quite, as he's trying to play the 40 games required for candidates more than he cares about rating. However, it seems Fide retroactively applied this rule to Blitz and literally removed rating that was legitimately gained by Alexander Bortnyk and Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, who play monthly events in their local chess club. Is this really true? How is this acceptable? Yes, people are going to stop playing opens, which of course has a ripple effect, because then of course it means less chance at norms, less chance to play grandmasters. Like, it's going to have a ripple effect. That's the reality. Okay, here we go. Fide just stole my rating. How can they go back in time and take all my rating? Now, this I actually did cover, and this is actually really so let me start with the two tweets. Or I don't know, this is the other one. This is Emil's reply. So Emil replied to Levy's tweet, and I'll give you context. Basically, Daniel Naroditsky and Alexander Bortnyk, suddenly yesterday they went to their Fide page, they checked their Blitz ratings, and they were missing points. Bortnyk went from like 2795 to 2759, I believe. What do you go for? Yeah, 2793 to 2759. The same thing happened to Daniel. So here's Emil's reply. Sorry, Levy, you have it wrong. Fide never applies the rules retroactively. What happened is as follows. There was a special provision in effect since December 1st, 2024, related to Rapid and Blitz only, that was aimed versus farming points. And at the time, stated the games where opponents had 600 points of rating difference are not counted for Fide, Rapid, and Blitz ratings as long as one of the players is 2600 plus. So basically above 2600, the same rules are in effect. It was published in October 24 in Fide Handbook, and it was publicly accessible throughout. Very few paid attention. I was way before Hikaru's Tour de Force, and it applied to Rapid and Blitz ratings only. Now what happened is that the algorithm was poorly adjusted and kept calculating ratings as if such a provision did not exist. This is our fault, but this technical mistake is totally different from applying the rules retroactively. At the moment this was noticed, the system was adjusted and recalculated results. But I must insist that this is not about applying the rule retroactively. The rule is there approved by Fide Council in the handbook. By the way, we did not take back from Bortnyk and others dozens of points he pocketed facing his fellow club players, averaged 1,000 points less than in games played before December 1st, 2024. Now, Emil, actually, I mostly thought this was fine until I see this sentence. Let's read this in plain English. We did not take back from Bortnyk and others dozens of points he pocketed facing his fellow club players, averaged 1,000 points less than him in games before December 1st, 2024. So Emil's trying to be like, oh, we're being so merciful, we're being so nice, we didn't take more of your points. He's also implying that Bortnyk did something untowards here to get these points, and Emil is 100% dead wrong. And this actually really bothers me, because Emil, being the elitist guy who doesn't actually live in the real world and understand how most chess players try to make a living, and yes, I'm going to take a shot at Emil here. Alexander Bortnyk and Daniel Naroditsky live in Charlotte, North Carolina. They go and play the Blitz events weekly at the club. They're not playing to farm the rating. They're playing there because it gives people an opportunity to play. They want to collect their $200 and they want to sharpen their Blitz skills. That's the simple reality of why they play. And Emil saying this is really gross. Like, this coming from a guy who, Peter Heine Nielsen, I'll just allude to Peter Heine Nielsen. Peter Heine Nielsen has said that Emil basically agreed to draws before games began in the past, as an example. So Emil has no right here to go and act like this when he's done plenty of things as a chess player that are not really acceptable himself. So that I'm going to say it because this is my one little bit where I can get annoyed. Emil really has no business saying this. This is really, really pathetic. Also, if your algorithm was mistaken and you only noticed this yesterday, of course you're applying it retroactively. I don't care what the rule was. If you guys saw it at the time and you had a system that was working, it would have been done at the time. But it wasn't, because they're lazy. They're bad organization. They don't know how to function properly. And Emil's trying to, saying, oh, we can go and do this now. But of course, it's completely retroactive and it's completely unacceptable what happened. And to make it even worse, as it relates to the ratings, Fide went and eliminated the games. They literally deleted the games from the record. So like if you go to US Chess, I'm sure Daniel will talk about this too. If you go to US Chess, this is one last bit I'm gonna show because we need to register. Let me find this. I'll show you guys one last thing. Bortnyk, Fide. Yeah, here we go. Let's pull this up. Is it gonna load? Oh, is it not gonna load? Oh, is Fide getting smart? They're changing Bortnyk's page. Oh my gosh! While we're on the fly, is it gonna load? Oh, it's gonna load. Okay. Wait a second. Wait a second. Did Fide do something? Is Fide trying to cover up their mess here? Wait a second. I think Fide is trying to cover up their mess here. Oh, they're trying to cover up their mess. I'll tell you what happened, okay? Oh wow, Fide is really they're really trying to be tricky, I think. Oh no, it showed up. Okay, it showed up finally. Okay, here we go. Okay, so you see Bortnyk here? They show him playing in Charlotte in September 13th, okay? So there's Bortnyk playing September 13th, and they show him playing one game with 0.0. So he played one game, right? The only problem with that is that's not the reality. Because if we go to US Chess MSA, here is Bortnyk's entire tournament. He played 9 games here. Played nine games here. The one game against Caden Trough, which I'm highlighting, you see right here. He played this one game, right? But Fide literally erased every other game from that tournament except for this one game. And to me, that is really, really unacceptable. For a game like chess, where it's all about history and games played, and we're all about keeping these records. For Fide to go and do this is really, really, really bad in my book. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, forget about the rules, just like erasing games as though they didn't happen is so bad. So. This bit, I think it's really sad. I also think I'm going to say one last little bit. I think this is very clearly a knee-jerk reaction by Emil Satovsky. The guy is literally living on the internet, listening to loud trolls and not focusing on what matters. Because the fact of the matter is, most people that I played against, people everywhere, they're very, very happy to have the opportunity to play against me. Nobody really sees it as a huge issue because it's not affecting anybody. I'm qualifying for the camps no matter what. People aren't getting harmed in this way. It's not like an 1800 is suddenly going to not qualify for the state championship. So Emil is very clearly knee-jerk reacting to loud trolls on the internet, which, by the way, are the very, very big minority. Objectively, they are not the majority, and literally making decisions based off of that. And I also think the other thing that's really gross about this is, in no sport do you have the CEO, the person who's running the company, getting into fights on the internet, or even really being active on like a Twitter. If you look at like basketball, it's like Adam Silver. Emil trying to pick fights with the players is literally like Adam Silver going on Twitter and trying to argue with Kevin Durant. Literally having a public argument on Twitter with Kevin Durant. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's just absurd. It should never happen. And frankly, I think all that Emil is doing is making himself look worse, making Fide look worse, and just bringing chess down. That's my honest take. So that was a little bit, you guys. I do have to get ready for Title Tuesday, so I hope you enjoyed this article with all this drama. I'm sure there will be more to come. I'm sure Emil will find some way to take a shot at me, no doubt, after this video comes out. But at any rate, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button. And we'll be back with more great content very, very soon. Hope you guys enjoyed it and have a great rest of your day. Bye.